What is up, World Wide Web and the people involved in it? It is day 21 of our Advent Christmas Devo series. So thankful for y'all, and especially for you that are going to go back and find this later in years to come. I am going to talk about a little yes today. Now, I have a neighbor, or had a neighbor, he just moved. But the other day I saw him loading up his truck with mattresses, box spring, all this bed stuff, dressers, chairs, there's all kinds of furniture. It was obvious he was clearing out of his place. And he was struggling, man. If you've ever tried to lift like a king mattress on your own, it's ridiculous. So I walked out there and I was like, hey man, can I give you a hand? And he was grateful for the help, because who wants to move alone? So I started loading this thing up, and then I saw something in his face that I had never seen before. This man was broken, legitimately broken. And you could just see in his eyes just a quiver that I haven't seen before. So I was like, hey, what's going on right now? And he proceeded to tell me, just without reservation, the things that had broken in his life. His family left, they vilified him. He was being forced to leave the house that he was in. He wasn't just choosing to move out of work, all of this stuff, just a legitimate broken man. And I was able to just, put my hands on his shoulders and pray for him right there in the middle of our neighborhood. Just seeing the need that was there, and just a simple yes to go over and offer to help lift a mattress turned into this great ministry moment. All right, and so that's what we're going to talk about today. So if you could get your Bibles and go to 1 Samuel 17, verses 17, 18, and 20. All right, 1 Samuel 17. That's kind of near the front of the Old Testament, so I'll give you a second. You go find that. All right, so we're there, 1 Samuel chapter 17. Now, this is a little bit of a story about David. So David was the youngest of 8. He was the little brother for sure. And while most of his brothers were off fighting this war against the Philistines, David's back home tending the sheep, because he's little brother, so he gets the short end of the stick there for the chores. So he's out tending these sheep, and one day his dad gives him this simple task that he wants him to do. And that's where we're going to pick up our story in 1 Samuel 17. All right, now Jesse, that's David's dad, said to his son David, take this ephah of roasted grain and these 10 loaves of bread for your brothers and hurry to their camp. Now, the ephah of grain, that's about 36 pounds, all right? So it's not just a little lunch kit. He's taking a load of food that's pretty heavy to his brothers on the front lines, okay? So he's taking this 36 pounds of roasted grain, 10 loaves of bread, and then he also said, take along these 10 cheeses to the commander of their unit. See how your brothers are and bring back some assurance from them. Now, verse 20, early in the morning, David left the flock of the sheep that he was watching in the care of a shepherd, loaded up all this food, and set out as Jesse, his dad, had directed. He reached the camp as the army was going out to its battle positions, shouting the war cry. And so then what happens here is David did this little yes that changed the trajectory of his entire life, because when he gets out to the front lines, this is when he encounters Goliath, who's shouting all of his insults at the armies of Israel, and everybody's kind of running back and cowering, and David's like, that ain't happening. And so he loads up, he goes out there, he defeats Goliath. And so within a matter of days, what happens is now he's in the court of King Saul. He's being cheered by the army, and he defeated this unconquerable foe, this champion of the Philistines. And so all because David honored his father by saying yes to this really ordinary task of, hey, take some food to your brothers because they're probably hungry. What we see then, though, is that this faithfulness in these small things lead to immeasurably more. So when you say yes in something that's ordinary and small, that has the potential to be something life-changing, like my neighbor saying yes to helping him load a mattress. I thought that was nothing, but it amounted to an opportunity to share the love of Christ with this severely broken man. I don't know what that's going to do in his life, but hopefully something is changed and he changes course. Okay, so my encouragement to you guys is just to think that what we do know is that when we are faithful in small things, we'll eventually be given the opportunity to be faithful in big things. So with your journals now, I want you to get your journal out and I want you to think about these things, okay? Number one, do you get frustrated with like trivial, menial tasks throughout your day? Like your mom or dad asks you to do a chore that it just doesn't make sense why you have to do that? Do you get frustrated with that kind of thing? And then think about like, how does David's story help you kind of process through that? The second thing is like, it's easy for us to want the big assignments. Like we live in that culture where it's like you leave a legacy, you leave your mark on society, you make this big contribution. Like colleges want that on your essay and all. Like, do you want those big assignments, but then realize that God tends to use the small ones way more often. So what I want you to do in your journal is think about how can you be faithful in the ordinary, everyday moments instead of just waiting for the big stuff to come along. Because if you're faithful in the small stuff, inevitably that'll lead to bigger stuff. So how can you be faithful in the ordinary, everyday moments? All right, Merry Christmas, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.